Welcome to my brand new series, I Failed. Here's where I'm going to be bringing back agents that used to be on this team to share their story with you on why they did not succeed. Everybody out there, including myself, is sharing successes from top producers of what they're doing to be successful, but nobody's sharing what happens to the ones that failed. So I am unveiling the curtain of full transparency to allow these agents to share their story with you so you can get a different side of the business and really make a informed decision on whether or not this industry is right for you. My name is Dana Neeson, and welcome to I Failed. Welcome, Ben. Thank you so much for being here. Ben is actually no stranger to my YouTube channel. He was actually featured early in 2023 on a one-on-one coaching call. You remember that, Ben?
Yes, I do. I do remember that. That was fun.
And I don't think we ever got into like your story and what brought you on this team in that session. It was just, let's just look at what a coaching session looks like and maybe to help you get a better understanding of the sales process, which was one of the reasons that attracted you to this team initially. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I just want you to introduce yourself to the internet. Tell us who you are, when you got your life insurance license, and what your first experience of it was like.
Yeah, so my name is Ben Garcia. I'm a father of three and one on the way. Graduated from Texas A&M back in 2014. I got my life insurance license technically back in 2015. I did a little bit of sales work with a company called Aflac, which a lot of people are probably familiar with. And I worked for them for about 2 years. And then I actually completely shifted gears and went into ministry for about 5.5, almost 6 years after that.
Right.
And during that time frame, towards the end of that time frame, is when I really felt like I needed to be a little bit more present with my family. Um, and that's why I decided to pick insurance back up again. And I had started with an IMO, I think is what they're called.
Yeah,
Um,
and I know you don't have to say the name.
oh
You
yeah, no, I won't. I won't. I
okay.
started with an IMO and they were good, but what I guess the flaw within that system that was hard for me was my whole goal in switching careers was to be more present with my family. And with that method, I was even less present with my family because a lot of the appointments I would set, I would be setting for the evening because that's when people could meet because the majority of the people that I was meeting with had 9 to 5s and so they couldn't meet during their job. And so I'd have to schedule them. And that's what really attracted me to Final Expense was that I could actually talk to people during the day when my wife was at work, when my kids were at school. I actually could be making sales and not just setting appointments, but like making sales. And that's when I saw your training and I was
Hey,
like,
wait,
wow.
hold on. We're going too fast. Let me stop you really
Sorry,
quick.
sorry, sorry, sorry.
So just to clarify, when you came back into insurance, you started in the field. You went back and did field sales and set appointments for the evening, or was it like Zoom calls, like for the evening? What was that? Let's clarify that.
Yeah, sorry. That was also telesales slash Zoom sales.
Okay.
So
And you were
yeah,
selling like what, mortgage protection or
mostly,
term
yeah, mostly
insurance?
mortgage protection was the main thing that we were selling at the time.
Okay. And so really, now financially, were you having success with it?
Yeah,
Regardless of the hours and the conflict with your family?
yeah, I would say so. I was my first month in sales, like in my bank account, I think it was like 7,000, I think. After I got everything ramped up, like okay, that first full month of working. So enough to pay the bills that I needed to pay for sure. And yeah, yeah. So it wasn't like it didn't work out. It was just that for my situation, it just wasn't ideal. My wife, a lot of pressure with her watching the kids in the evenings after she had worked, and it wasn't good for the marriage overall. So like I said, I'm a family man, so I gotta make decisions for everyone based on what's best for the family for sure.
And so how long did you do that for?
I did it for about 3 months.
3 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Seems to be a theme. Seems like people are doing things for 3 months. You'll see when you watch the rest of the videos.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what about like the way that you sold or like did you have a sales process? I mean, you're really naturally good on the phone. You have a really great tonality in your voice. I think that you're just really good with people. But did you feel like you had a good handle of a sales process as well?
It was okay. There was definitely some gaps in that first training. It was very old school in the way that we approached sales. A lot of the stuff that I unlearned once I joined your team, but um, yeah, a lot of script. But once the sales process started, it was kind of just like they handed us a PowerPoint that we would go through, and
Hmm.
there was no set like you just had to cover the points basically, but you were given a lot of freedom to on the presentation style and that type of thing. So there wasn't a lot of super clear direction with that. Um, but yeah, so it's just like a PowerPoint that we'd go through. We get to know the people, and actually, Jeremy Miner was doing some of the training for this IMO for a while, so we were starting to learn a little bit about his methods, and I really enjoyed them. And then seeing you with the training kind of was like, oh wow, she's like really implementing this.
But
So
now, were you buying your own leads or were you getting those leads for free?
yes, I was definitely buying my own leads that were probably ran through, at the time, I think it was like $8 a lead on the low end. And then I never really got to the higher tier leads just because I didn't stick around that long to get those. But yeah, I was buying my own leads, and that was also a little bit of obviously pressure there. Is like you're investing money and you don't know if you're going to get it back, and you're betting on yourself. And that, not that that's wrong, but it's just more risk, definitely more risk involved than getting leads on your phone like transferred over. That's amazing. So anyway, yeah, we definitely were paying for our own leads.
Okay. And besides just being stuck to having to run appointments in the evening, was there anything else about that opportunity that maybe what caused you to want to look in a different direction?
I think the fluctuation of mortgage protection was one of them.
Uh-huh.
When the real estate market is really hot, it's great. When the economy is doing well, it's great. But it does lack that consistency. And, in this economy, if you're an amazing salesperson, you're going to get sales either way.
Yeah.
But if people are already, pinching pennies, we see what the economy is like, we see what the stats are like. There's more people with credit card debt now than there really ever has been. All of that has risen in the past 4 years. And so with mortgage protection, it's one of those things that people, unfortunately, they look at as kind of like a luxury. It's like, well, it'd be nice if my mortgage was covered if I died, but really right now, like we can't even afford that extra 50 to $100 a month to cover the mortgage or whatever it was. So that's one of the main things that I think attracted me to Final Expense was that like death is inevitable, and people who are getting older in age, most of them tend to know that. As well as I do, some of them think they're gonna live forever still, but the need is kind of built in. So you don't really have to, I mean, you definitely do have to sell, but you people already understand that the need is there. So that's what I really liked in comparison to, Final Expense compared to mortgage protection.
Okay, so then you could have transitioned even within the same company from selling mortgage protection to final expense. Why change your business model from a paid lead program to a free lead program, or my model specifically? What was that decision process like?
So I would say the biggest thing for me was definitely you were the deciding factor. Having the ability to be close to a leader such as yourself who knows the sales process, and I would be able to interact with, like with my other IMO, I only interacted with a manager, and never the main person who led our team. Um, and that was to me what I really valued. And I saw your skill level online just through your YouTube channel. And I knew that you knew what you were talking about because I've been learning it from, Jeremy Miner. And I think I told you this at one point, or maybe I commented, is like you were literally the female Jeremy Miner. Like I feel like
Great
you,
compliment.
yeah, yeah. I feel like for Final Expense, you'd be a better salesman in this industry than Jeremy Minor would be if he came in a final expense. I genuinely do believe that. So
Jeremy, are you up for the challenge?
right. Sorry,
Okay.
you've seen this
So,
one.
because we're not going to give a spoiler alert yet about why you ended up leaving. So, I think it's really important to ask you what you were looking for in this team. Did you get it?
Yeah. So the main thing I was looking for was that support and that training, and I definitely did get it. And you were available, your calendar always had openings if we needed to get with you. And I definitely took you up on those every now and then, which one of those calls was on YouTube. So
Yeah.
y'all are able to see it there as well. But I definitely did get that. I got the team aspect, which unfortunately, I was missing with the other IMO. We didn't have a group chat. We didn't really communicate unless we were on the call together once a week.
Mhm.
And so I really enjoyed the camaraderie. I really enjoyed, seeing Steve in there making sales. I don't know what he's up to now, but
Yeah.
seeing all the people that were there when I was, and just really supporting each other. And that really, I really enjoyed that, and it was lacking in the first company. So yeah, the support from you, the training from you, and then just the overall, team aspect. I definitely feel like those were things I was looking for, and I did definitely get with your team for sure.
So I'm looking through the weekly sales reports right now. And on average, you were writing and submitting anywhere from about, I want to say on the low end, maybe 2,000 a week. And on the high end, I'm trying to see what your best week was. Maybe 6,000? Did you have a week,
Yeah.
higher than that
Um,
that you can remember?
and I honestly I don't remember, but
I think
probably
this might even
so.
go back into 2022, the end of 2022. But I don't have that one up. I only have 2023. But that's okay. But I think that's what's kind of important to note is, or and I'm not going to state it. I'm going to let you answer it.
Yeah.
Do you think when you were here, you gave it everything you had while you were here? I'm looking at your hours and your talk time and all of that. So,
Yeah. No,
what
I
are your thoughts
definitely
on that?
I definitely didn't. I would say I gave it, maybe 60% effort. And that sounds really bad to say, but that's the truth. I did, get on my states. So there was like aspects of it where I did you know, do all the stuff I needed to, but then there was aspects of it where like, which we'll get into later why, but yeah, like sitting down and man, you don't know how much, like 20 hours of talk time sounds like not that much, but it is a lot of talk time. And I'm a talker, and so like naturally I guess I am, but yeah, it's definitely difficult to do even for people who like me might be used to talking, but
Before you move on from that point, because that is a really important point that I want to make. 20 hours of talk time is 4 hours of talk time a day,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
It typically takes about 3 extra hours of working to get the amount of talk time you want to get. So you would really only be working for 7 hours in order to get 4 hours of talk time. Why do you think it feels like working for 7 hours? Because it doesn't sound as long as it feels. So
Yeah.
where do you think that differential comes in?
Yeah, for me, it's definitely human interaction. And being in the same spot all day, like that's to me where the time kind of goes a lot slower.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, in my previous job, I was used to seeing people, some of my closest friends, I worked with them. If you ever needed a break, you'd go to the break room for 10 minutes and, talk with whoever, and then you'd come back and work. Like you could lock in and then you could unwind within the same, setting. And with this model, it was a lot harder because my wife wasn't, she was working. I was locked literally in this office right here. I was just kind of locked in here for those, 7 hours a day. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but I was used to running errands and doing other stuff as a youth pastor. There were so many different things that I would do. And I feel like for someone who's wired like me, it was really cool. It was like you never got bored doing the same thing. And so it constantly kept me engaged doing other things. And obviously, with this model is a lot different, but I think for me, that's what caused it to seem like such a long time, even though it's not
Windows
like
in that office?
that what?
Do you have any windows in there?
I have one directly in front of me, but I kind of cover it because it gets a little too bright. But yeah, there's just like one I can see some of the leaves outside, but that's
So you're
about it.
like locked in a box.
Yeah.
And, 80% of this job is rejection. So you're locked in a box with people telling you to F off a lot. And then it's like, then you get a great conversation that lasts 45 minutes. And then at the end of it, they say, I want to think about it. Right. So
Yeah.
what does that do for you mentally over time?
Yeah, for sure. It's just like it kind of just beats you down, and you have to have a system in place, or just healthy way to unwind or kind of like get it off your chest. But again, for me, I'm a people person, and I guess I let things get to me maybe a little bit more in that aspect. I'm sure others can relate, but yeah, over time it just beats you down. And if you can't just let it fall off your back, then it starts to accumulate after a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you think is the difference between not even someone like me, but some of the top producers that you were on the team with while you were here? What do you think the difference is like mentally for someone that can do it and thrives off of it versus someone that really like comes to the realization that I'm not so sure this is what I want. What do you think the difference is? Have you ever thought about that?
Yeah, I think that for a lot of the really successful agents, there's different motivating factors, but a lot of them they find energy within the process. So, like for some people, that energy is making sales, like money, like they need to provide. And so, every no is just closer to a yes. And I'm so fine with no's because I need to make money and I don't give a crap what people tell me. Like, I'm just going to move on to the next one. And they find that energy there. With other people like Steve, like he loves people. And I feel like he wasn't so attached to the outcome that he was able to just find energy in the conversation and get to know people, and that comes across in the conversation that like he wasn't about making the sale, and so he was about helping the person. And
Do you think that you were attached to the outcome?
I think so. During the time that I was there, I was a little more attached to the outcome than I probably should have been. um and that's just for like survival purposes, right, for paying the bills. Uh but I don't think that that would have been the thing that really held me back. It was probably more so the interaction is what I would say. But I guess I couldn't really find energy in the process either way. Like even if I was doing what Steve was doing and having those really good conversations, I feel like I would still miss the face to face, just the
Yeah.
way that I'm wired. But yeah, I think that that's the biggest difference between successful long-term agents versus people who, come in and come out, is finding that source of energy within the process and not letting it, deteriorate you over time.
So a big question that I get from agents that are wanting to consider maybe being on this team is they ask me, what's my retention rate, right? How many agents do I keep? Like it's up to me, or it's something I'm doing wrong. What if I say, it's a high turnover? And a part of what I want to try to show with this series is that I don't know what else I can do. Right. And you, like I said earlier, I don't know if I said this on camera. I said this to you before we started recording, is this, you came in before our agent and training program where I have now 4 managers that assist new agents in helping them close their sales so they start to see success earlier. But even if you had something like that, the ultimate long-term day in and day out of what you would be doing was just not aligning with what you were called to do and on the bigger picture. Is that right?
Yeah,
So,
no, I would
so for the
agree.
agents that I feel are, and it's not just about me, like it's also about other leaders in the industry that are also doing the right thing and putting their best foot forward. What would you say to an agent that looks at a system like mine that still has a high turnover? Um, what do you contribute that high turnover to?
I would say it's mostly just the aspect of sales in general. Like sales is definitely a difficult skill to acquire, um, but it's the highest paying skill you could acquire, definitely. But for those new people, I think the best thing is like just count the costs. Like, are you willing to be told no and move forward? Are you someone who can detach yourself completely from people, not understanding that they're trying to help? And can you just keep moving forward and get to, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? Because it's definitely there. It's just the trek to get there that causes a lot of people to veer off. And so I think someone new coming in should really just, if your back's up against the wall and you got to do what you got to do and you're able to move power forward, then yeah, I think there was probably certain times in my life where I could have, put my head down and kept going and maybe gotten to a place where things were so easy, making sales wasn't really difficult at all. So it could have stayed long term, but it just wasn't, I guess, ideal for me. But that's what I would tell new people, like walk yourself through the next 3 months. Can you see yourself doing this, or even 6 months to a year or long term? Can you see yourself every day coming into an office, being disciplined, staying on the phone, answering the call? I remember that in the first couple of days is like I couldn't even get a call answered because someone snagged it right before I did. So I was like, man, I got to be ready to like I would put my mouse in like the right position to just
Oh,
click.
it's not even like that anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay, well that's
Yeah,
good.
it's not
That's
even like that anymore. It's totally different.
okay,
We'll
cool.
talk about
Well,
that offline.
okay, yeah, yeah.
But
So,
yeah, that has changed. I forgot about that. Yeah, but
yeah,
that's changed. That has changed. Do you think it's possible, based on what you saw when you were here, for an agent to make 10,000 a month?
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Is it the norm? Maybe not, but because it's just that people aren't putting in the talk time, like legitimately. And it's because maybe people aren't used to sitting down for that long and doing that. But if you're willing to, I believe it's probably hard not to make 10,000. If you're getting 20 plus hours of talk time, 30 hours of talk time, my goodness, like you're gonna make $10,000. If you don't, you'd be one of the very few people that wouldn't do that with that amount of time put in. So yeah, it's very, very doable if you put in the work. I mean, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So let's now transition to what was the defining moment where you decided, I'm waving the white flag, I'm leaving.
I can't really even remember what the final moment was or the straw that broke the camel's back, as people say, but I think just overall was the just mentally I felt exhausted all the time because I was just, talking about death and not that death is, you know, a scary thing for me, but it's just like it can be taxing on someone to just talk gloom and doom all the time. And I'm someone who's like very optimistic. So it was really like a hard thing to navigate. But maybe I must have had like a rough week or something, or I was putting in less and less time probably is
Sure.
if yeah, yeah. As it was just kind of wearing me down, slowly but surely till I got to a point where I wasn't putting in the activity the to maintain the money that I need to make. And that's when it was like, all right, I'm um I'm waving the white flag here and gonna have to move on. So yeah, it
So
was
are you
just,
still in insurance?
am I still in insurance? No, actually. Right now I'm actually doing e-commerce now. So that's been pretty cool. It has that different aspects to it that I like and enjoy. And I'm able to, be in different settings, like even if I go work at a coffee shop or something, or
Yeah.
it's a little more flexible in that aspect. So it helps me for sure. And I don't get necessarily the face-to-face interaction with people that I'm helping or working with, but I do get it when I'm out in a public setting working, I see people, so it's a little bit more like, okay, cool. Like, and then I live in a not a small town, but you know, a city here where I'll run into people that I know and stuff like that. So it's
Breaks up the day where you're just not like, I have to be at my desk for 8 hours and I can't move, right?
yeah,
I think that's really what it is.
yeah.
It is.
If you really want to, make what you need to make, yeah, that's what it is. And I think another issue for me was that I was staying so stuck to the script that it was just so monotonous for me. And I know like not every like sometimes that's what you got to do, but like people like Steve did not do that like at all. They would go off script, but he's had the sales background for so long. He knows where he's taking the customer, and people that are new usually don't. And so if you start to veer off, which like I knew I wasn't capable of doing that quite yet. So if I started to veer off, I know that I would just end up in La La Land. So I had to stay stuck to that script. And that to me was also like, oh man, okay, here we go again. Like,
Same thing over and
and it's
over.
not, yeah, it's not hard when you're making sales. Like if you're making sales, give me the same script all day, right? But there's times where like, it's hit or miss sometimes. And a lot of it's skill level on the person doing the calls, definitely. And then sometimes it's just you're never going to convert a customer unless you're Dana Neeson, right? But um whenever you start getting those like no after you feel like you did your best and you're getting no after no, that's when you have to kick in gear and just like, man, keep putting your head down and going for it, because that's when the rubber meets the road, as they say.
I think you pretty much nailed it on the head that sales is tough. And, even though we can provide an environment with systems and leads and structure and coaching and, managers to help you close your sales and everything you need to just plug and play, I can teach you how to sell and I can help you understand the sales process, but it's really up to you to implement it and how you deal with the rejection that determines success or failure. And it goes so much beyond lead quality and just the surface level stuff that people blame for not being successful. And I respect you so much, and we had such a great relationship when you were here, and we're still friendly on Instagram, and I love watching you and your beautiful family. What do you think you could share with any agent that's thinking about being on this team? What would you tell them are some of the biggest benefits, and what would you tell them might be some of the things to look out for?
Yeah, some of the biggest benefits for sure is like this is, I think, the best opportunity in final expense and selling life insurance over the phone. It doesn't get any better than this model. I know it's changed slightly, but probably only for the better,
Absolutely.
knowing you and the team. And so it's definitely the best opportunity if you're willing to put in the work. Again, if you're willing to sit down and make the calls, you're gonna make money, you're gonna succeed if you apply yourself. And even if you suck at sales, like if you just apply yourself and keep learning from Dana, keep learning from the managers, you're gonna succeed, if you do that. And a lot of times it's people who don't have a sales background that do really well because they're able to just follow the system. They're like, oh, okay, cool. This is what it is. I'm just gonna learn from Dana. And the first person teaching themselves is you or Melissa or somebody.
Yeah.
And they're able to just learn it and they don't have any prior experience to kind of mess with them. But yeah, that was, I kind of forgot the question, but
That's
that's my,
okay. That was something, just like words of encouragement.
oh yeah.
Um, as far as like the anything to watch out for, or you might not want to do it if
I
anything.
think, yeah, I think we kind of covered that.
Yeah.
If you're like, if you need to see people, then this probably not a job for you. Um, but if you're okay talking to people, sometimes like there were a few conversations where I would draw energy from, and I was like, oh man, it was cool talking to that person. I didn't make a sale, which sucks, but it was nice getting to talk to that person. But I feel like the bad calls outweigh those good calls for me. So yeah, but there's definitely times where you meet someone cool and you're able to stay in touch or even, just like reflect on that it was a good conversation, and that helps as well.
Nice. Well, I think we've pretty much covered everything. I think it's really neat that I have the opportunity to reach out to agents that aren't here anymore that want to share their story and help other people to show a different side of the team, even though you're not on it anymore, right? You have no incentive to jump on here with me today. I mean, besides just being a good person.
No, honestly, my only incentive is that you were such a good, manager. You've been super friendly even when, I decided to leave the team. There was no hard feelings. You kept me accountable. Like because of those things, you've built equity with me. And man, if I can help in any way, like that's just one way that I would love to give back. And so thank you for having me for sure. And grateful for the opportunity that you gave me. And hopefully someone finds value in this call as well and is able to, really count the cost before going in and that it helps someone stick around long term. Or maybe develop a system that's going to help them stick around long term so that they can keep going.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate you coming on here today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dana.